This podcast is rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. Some material may not be suitable for children. Mission to
Guys, time keeps passing by. Do you know what we just did?
What?
We watched all of the Hayao Miyazaki movies on the list.
Shit. Nothing else to look forward to.
I know.
Right. Except one more.
What the fuck?
I wonder if the new one is on the list.
It's
or
not. Yeah,
no.
it's not. For some reason, it's not.
How long has it been out?
Week and change, or like less than a week at this
well,
point.
we got time.
Maybe
It's got some.
We gotta go see it anyway.
Some time. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
This might be the last time. This could have been said like for, I don't know, his last 2 or 3. Last time we can go and see a release of his in the theater as opposed to a re-release.
Yeah.
So
This is, I've seen it. I'm not going to
Yeah.
say anything about it, but it was the first time the only thing I'll say is it's the only time I've seen a Ghibli in the theater.
Oh,
nice.
wow.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's a pretty good way to see it, I'll say. You know,
I bet.
It's
Okay.
true for any movie, though, so it's not really saying that much.
That's true. Except for Room. That movie sucked in the theater, too.
Yeah, better on the phone with that one.
Maybe it felt
Yeah.
less claustrophobic in
Yeah.
the theater. I don't know. Yeah.
But it
I'm
doesn't
just
seem
gonna
too
go-
long
yeah.
ago that we were watching Castle in the Sky and Nausicaa, and TC was slowly revealing that he likes an animated genre of movies. You know, it was
Yep.
a whole thing.
Yep.
And this movie is, for a lot of reasons, considered the best one, and we can get into that. But before we get into other people's opinions, TC,
That's right. Go.
Spirited Away.
Well, yeah, that's good. All right.
Okay.
Fuck
No.
you, go TC, go.
Going good. Come on.
I have to say this was an interesting movie. Hell of a imagination on that motherfucker, huh? Yeah, I mean, it was a cute story. It really was. You know, I don't really have much, to be honest.
That's good.
I mean, yeah,
How
not
does
much
it,
to
so like
say
compare
here.
it to, like, you've come in gushing on other Ghibli movies. It doesn't seem like that's happening right now.
Not gushing. I don't know if have you really gushed. I mean, you've
Have I
enjoyed
gushed?
them.
You gushed during Totoro, and you liked
Yeah,
Princess
Totoro I
Mononoke.
liked.
Totoro's a
I
gusher?
liked. Totoro
Yeah.
I liked.
Yeah.
I
And
thought
Princess
this one
Mononoke
was,
you liked because it was surprisingly violent, and that, you know, I don't think you were ready for that. So
right.
that's what I remember from that one too.
No, I think you have a much better memory than I do. About my.
I also have to edit these, so like
Yeah.
I listened to them a couple times, so
Yeah,
I
true.
So
I kinda
you got
burned
it
itself into my head a little bit.
ingrained more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Sorry, man.
It was. This one's very fantastical and out there, but good story. I like the characters. You know, I like the idea of a rich hotel. It's kind of got that like. Yeah, I feel like the stupid movies with Keanu Reeves kind of ripped it off. Like that idea of like
John
the
Wick?
hotel. Yeah, right. Like we're
Yeah.
the hotel and like all the important people go to the hotel to relax.
Right.
It's a very, very, you know, it's a cool idea. And I think that all like the fairies and whatever you want to call them
Frog people
are all in one place. Yeah, right. Hanging out. It's like a
all the
cruise ship
stink
cereals.
monsters.
of fantasy. Yeah, I don't really have too much else.
Okay,
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I
makes
was.
sense to me.
I wouldn't say I was really, you know, trying to critique it, even though I know that's what we're supposed to be doing. It was.
I
you know,
can
you-
sympathize with you. I was like mesmerized by the thing.
Yeah,
Like,
maybe that's what it is. Maybe yeah.
there's just so much. Like you said, there's so much imagination in it that it.
Have you seen it
to me,
before, John?
A long time ago, and I don't
Okay.
think I paid attention to it really.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It was like when it came out. Then it was like, oh, you got to go see it, and I went and saw it because I had to go see it because that's what all the cool people were doing or whatever. And I don't think I really it was like, yeah, that was really cool. You know,
I mean,
whatever.
Anyways.
it's a cool. It's
I
a
was
cool
just a mindless
story.
idiot
Yeah.
then. Probably still am.
I don't know if I, you know, I'm not coming in here gushing over it, but
Well-
I'm glad I watched it, especially after hearing people talk about it. I can see why it's a very highly watched anime.
Mhm.
It's just got so many different things for so many different types of people. You know, you can go and you can get a normal story of family. You can go, you can get a story of fantasy. You can go and get a story of like weird witchcraft shit. You can, you know, like there's just a lot going on. And I think maybe that's probably why I wasn't critiquing it. There's just so much to take in. And it's not a bad thing. It's just like you really got to kind of keep up with all the different things. And then when they start turning into different things, then you really got to keep a list.
Yeah,
But
it is totally
But
again,
yeah.
I thought just very absorbing, like the sheer amount of things that you're seeing that are weird.
There's a lot to juggle. Even as a
new.
writer and an anime, I can't even imagine. Like just coming up with all the things when you read the script. Like how many characters were there? Right.
We're not just talking about lots of things either. It's lots of weird things. Each thing is really weird in a weird way that we've never seen before.
Scary
it doesn't make any
sometimes.
sense. Yeah, and it doesn't have to make sense, and that's the best part.
But this is different than some of his other films, I feel. Which again, they not that they weren't complex, or some were slower, but some of his other films, like Valley of the Wind, they're more like kind of actiony kind of films. They're adventure films in a way. There's fantasy elements too, but they have a lot of these sort of high action sequences. At least this one was still, even though there was some action, it was mostly just about this world and this journey of the scroll. And so it's this weird sort of, relatively speaking, kind of slower paced film in a way, but then the things that are going on all the time are ridiculous.
Yeah.
In a really good way. But it's just like, I could just think of any of the scenes, just anything that's going on. There's so much imagination. Like there's the guy who's like the bath manager, and he's got all the arms that extend out there. He is awesome. His character by itself is awesome. It could be just like the highlight of any other film. He's just one of them. I mean, you've got the no face thing that's really creepy.
That's creepy.
And really interesting. Yeah. The dragon, the way it's portrayed is really awesome. Like as sort of the more like traditional Chinese dragon. I don't know. You could take any of
the
these.
witch with the giant head, the baby that's like fucking also very giant.
Right.
So you got the three
the
heads
baby
that
who's
stack
a
up on top of each
psycho.
other.
Right? The baby who has like gets off on hurting people.
Right.
What's
the three
up with
heads
that?
were insane.
Yeah.
They're just there.
They're just bouncing around.
They're also
to
like,
watch.
burp,
Yeah.
burp. You know,
You got the giant turnip man that's kind of like a fat guy. I don't know if he's bad or not, but I think he's just going to take a bath. You got all the frog people.
Yeah.
You got frog people, but then you got actual frogs as well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Holy shit.
And like some magic herbal remedy cleans you. Like what is that?
It's like the spirits.
Right?
These spirits.
That's a good
go
ticket
for a
right
bath,
there.
You know, I mean, yeah. I sort of with TC, it's hard to know what to say in a sense. Like I read some of his commentaries on it. I know what he's trying to do with it, and I think if I were to, I want to watch it again and not just be like, and maybe just sort of see that sort of side where he wants, like Miyazaki wants this to be about a girl and show her journey sort of from kind of a pouty, sort of grumpy girl to somebody who, and also someone who might be not sure of herself, become someone who can do things and feel sure of herself. And that's what he sort of wanted to write this film for, was, a 10-year-old girl, which I wasn't inclined to show it to Samantha, who's 9, just because I think it's pretty creepy. I don't know if she'd be really that interested at this point.
Is it just the no-face freak-out scene? That was the one part that was like,
freak-out is a little creepy. Yeah, well, especially
and
no-face just eats. They come out later, but it's pretty.
it looks like he's killing him.
Yeah, it looks like he's killing him, but it's also just creepy. But
and just his voice too. He's like, huh?
Yeah, that's weird.
Super weird. Yeah.
It reminds me of Dark Souls, like when you're dying.
Yeah, dude. So many times I was just like, Dark Souls ripped the shit off.
Yeah.
So much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just spectacular though. I think this just has more like imagination in it per scene than just about anything I can think of in terms of. I mean, maybe if you're from Japan, some of this stuff might be folklore type stuff, and you might recognize. Maybe there's more things that might be somewhat recognizable from that culture. I don't know, but to me, there's just so many things in this film that were just like flat out like I've not seen something like that. That is really weird. And then that there's all these that's happening, and then there's all these sort of interactions. It's still, even though it's all crazy and mystical, the place like looks like it belongs. I don't know how to say this. It looks like everything's operating as it should. It's like there's this society. Yes, of course, there's the guy with the bathwater and the 8 arms, and then there's the little blot dots that are helping him with the coal, which they're so fucking adorable.
They have all the processes worked out, right? It's like still mechanical and stuff.
Somehow this all fits in,
and
right?
It has like architecture that would work. At least it does in your head, because
it doesn't feel like they're just like, hey, look at this weird shit we're doing. It all like fits there. It's
but
not
doesn't
just
it kind of and then you kind of think Men in Black kind of ripped it off, right? Because like when the monsters are all walking around and just aliens are being aliens, and they're like, hey, how's it going? And you know what I mean? Like,
that's not what you want to do. You want to have it like, you just want to establish, even though it's weird, it's not
like
weird
it's
for them.
it's the world. You
Right,
established the world, and
Right,
we've
right.
accepted the world, and now all the things that they've got going in the world make complete sense because they're in relation to what we do in our lives.
Yeah, and so that's really and that's what's really cool about
really
it.
Well.
I think so, yeah, and I think it's like it's sort of easier. So in Men in Black, what they do,
I can't believe we're doing this comparison.
Well,
I mean, it is. It reminded me of
It's a
that.
good one.
Yeah.
But what they do,
it's a good one.
they're like, but they're like,
it's
like, let's take make it a minute. Let's take it's just like, oh, you're just at the office, but it's a bunch of aliens, and so these like, hey, they're having coffee. Hey, how you doing? Whatever, you know, and that's really funny. But here, they're all doing things that are weird. That I have no idea what's going on here. So I don't. It's not like you're just overlaying. Okay, it's the office plus aliens. This is weird shit in a weird place. And yet they're making it all look like it all belongs there.
I think it works.
That's like, to me, that because it's kind of easy.
Well, it's nice too because like
Yeah.
it's a whole bunch of different spirit cultures, I guess, and they all have their own weird thing they want to do. But like this bathhouse is accommodating to literally all of them. So just that by itself, like being so inclusive of all this different weird shit, is kind of like this is a very safe place.
As long as you're not a human. Which is even more like the stakes are high because like our protagonist is a human. So like there's just a lot to work with.
It is
there.
really cool. Yeah. You have all of that, you know. So the place, there's a festival called Shimotsuki Matsuri, and it's a festival in December in the remote mountains of Japan. And what they do is they basically dance around pots of boiling water, and they recite the names of gods from all over Japan and invite them to bathe in the hot water. And Hayao heard about this or knew about this festival, and that was one of his inspirations. This idea of okay, here's a place where the spirits all come to take a bath, and then what sort of comes from there. So that was one of his inspirations as well.
Another one of his inspirations was he went to a bathhouse and he was a kid, and he remembers a small door next to one of the baths. And he had no idea what was behind the door, and it always like, you know,
he thought it might be like
he was curious
crazy
about it.
servants and whatever.
Right, so he kind of like used that as like that. There's a bunch of like small secret doors in this movie too. So he filled in the gap for himself there.
Yeah. So
what else you got, John?
I don't know. Did you? I ended up buying it because it was just about as cheap as anything else.
I think it was on one of Max or something.
Yeah, but Max, it's like so many. I didn't get a free trial, and now it's like a lot of money without.
All of them are getting ridiculous.
Without advertisement.
Yeah.
It's like you can pay like $9 for a month, but it's with ads. So it's like
I remember back in the day with cable, you could pay for the whole thing.
Remember when
get it all
Hulu
at
was
once.
free? Hulu was
right.
free for
Isn't
years.
that crazy?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's anyway. So in buying it on Apple, you can the extra you get is you can have it the subtitled or dubbed version. And so I did the subtitled. This time.
Did you? I did the dub. I wasn't trying to sit there and read too.
Yeah, I think TC did the right thing.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think trying to read and view it, you're right, is probably. But I sometimes like the
dub is really good too because I usually like the subtitles,
It was
especially
really-
live
it sounded
action
good.
stuff.
Yeah.
It's always better to do the subtitle or subtitles. But this one they did like it was like a Pixar hired people and it was a whole production.
Oh
and,
right, that was kind of one of the big deals about it coming over to the States.
Plus,
too,
I mean,
right?
all their mouths do is go up and
That was
down,
when
right?
they had
Yeah,
Some
but
of
they
it,
also the writers they not only adapted the screenplay or what was the language in the Japanese version, but they Americanized it because there was some stuff that we wouldn't understand. Plus, they wrote it to try and match. Like they wrote the dialogue to match the mouths.
Right.
That's cool.
It did change the dialogue. Like that's where I did a small like first 5-minute comparison. That's why I decided to do subtitles was because they said different things than the script. Like she's complaining about the flowers or something about her flowers being dead early on, and her mom's like, "Don't worry about it. We'll put them in the pot of water. It'll be okay." That's not said in the dubbed version at all.
Oh.
I was like, all right, I'm going subtitles.
Because they're like, wow, everyone's so sensitive in America. We can't like tell the kid off. Like,
did it just replace it with a different? What did it replace it with?
It just wasn't there. It wasn't there. There was
they
some like
the
other.
Scene?
There was like no, it wasn't a scene. It was a small amount of dialogue. It was replaced by something. Just her saying something else. I don't know entirely what it was. But anyway, it'd be interesting to see what because they're trying to fit the mouths. Then it's going. You're not necessarily thinking of. It's got to be a different script, right? So you're going to be like trying to make the same thing. So in a sense, it's like, wow. Anyway, I'm sure the dub would be better in the sense of like you guys are saying, there's so much to look at looking at words along the way sort of like will take you out of it just because the whole thing is so just.
It's just you got to pay attention.
Right. Yeah.
And I will say, so John, go with the dubbed for The Boy and the Heron.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if I get a choice. But yeah.
You might. The theater that we went to the first, like last weekend when we saw it, it was doing dubbed only, but this weekend it's doing 2 subs and 3 dubs a day.
Oh, wow.
So you get to like pick the showtime.
High traffic for that film. Is it? It must be
great.
Hopefully it's doing well.
It broke records.
Nice.
It was number 1 at the box office last weekend.
Wow.
It was
Fucking
one
A.
of the slowest weekends of the year, but
still,
it was the first
that data point.
It's the first time a foreign animation movie has been number 1 at the box office.
Wow.
$13 million.
92 Metacritic score. User score of 6.9. So, cool. Good for them. Good for him. He keeps breaking records.
Seriously.
After retiring. It's funny. There's
retiring over and over again.
Another interview with him
is
where
that
he's
really
like, he's
retiring?
like, he was worried this film wasn't going to do well because it was like released in the summer and it was an unusually hot summer. He didn't think people were going to go see theaters because it was nice out. I don't know.
In Japan, it already came out in the summer?
When it came out in Japan, yeah. He was really worried it was going to do well. And it was like, it was at the time, like it was the highest grossing movie ever in Japan when it came out. So, I mean, again, it's just
this movie
it's just
was,
funny.
or sorry, The Boy and the Heron was.
Spirited Away is the highest grossing movie ever when it came out. But Miyazaki,
and it was until 2020 as well.
Right, until that Demon Slayer movie, which is really not very good, but whatever.
Mungeon Train. Thanks, COVID.
Yeah, that's right. That's true.
It was the only movie out, so everyone just went to go see that one movie, and it broke all the records.
Yeah, that's fair. But I mean, it's a very popular series, I think. But yeah, yeah. So, it's amazing. But yeah, okay. So go see the dubbed version. You're telling me
dubbed.
All right,
it was good.
Okay, good.
And don't look at who's in it, and then after you watch it, look up who people were, and your mind will be blown.
Okay, cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for. I will not look at anything about it.
Okay. Spirited Away. I've seen this movie probably 12 times.
Yes, and Denny,
we have
a
rotation. We have a rotation in our house. It is a single. We have a bunch of DVDs. I don't know if you guys have noticed. I really like movies, and I have this podcast where we talk about movies, and I buy physical copies of shit all the time because I gotta watch the special features, commentaries, special features, making of all the time. So we have a bunch of physical media, and we have one whole shelf just for Ghibli, and it's in a very easily accessible spot in the whole collection of things because they're in regular rotation. Like we just have our favorites, but we have mostly all of them. And this one's one of the highest rotated ones because of everything you guys are talking about. It's like the way it looks is completely insane. I think it might be the best looking one of the ones that we've watched just in terms of like the detail and the quality. I'm not an artist, but like some of the stuff they show just like looks completely insane. Like the water effects they have that are hand drawn are really fucking cool. All the slime stuff is gross, but like it looks cool. And not only does it look cool, but like you guys were saying, it's like it seems like it's based in kind of a reality that makes it all more real somehow. Like it seems slower, even though it moves. I mean, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it kind of flies by. Yeah. But at the same time, it feels kind of slow. But that's because you're just like following this person. It's like it's a slow almost pace. Entirely linear story. There's no jump in time, it seems like, right? You have like her first whole day and then she goes to sleep. She gets up. She has a whole nother day. She goes to sleep. She gets up.
We're pretty much following her. We're not really, we're not just like hitting the highlights.
2.5 days she's there and then she's home. And that's, and it never skips. You see her entire existence basically from beginning to end. And I mean, it's all, the linearity there is helpful. It's the voice acting I thought was really helpful. They had like in the Japanese version, it was the first time they used a real child for the voice acting. They had children in Totoro, but that was later, and they had children in this American version, but that was also later. But that helps a lot, I think, like hearing actual children and not just like adult women who can make their voices really high. So that is a factor that's kind of, it makes it seem more real. I think the sound design is something that's pretty consistent in Studio Ghibli movies where it's it lets you hear, it gives time to show you that this place is real by letting you hear like footsteps on wood and like creaking doors and like ropes being pulled and water splashing and like all of that stuff is, you can tell they spent time recording it because it sounds great and they synced it up perfectly, and it all just helps you just be absorbed into the world. And it's got to take a lot of effort to do that kind of thing. And I don't know, some people might not pay attention to it, but I think it seeps into your brain.
Yep.
Like there's watching other cartoons, animations or whatever, computer animations, they don't do it as well as Ghibli movies, or they don't do it in the same way. They don't try to make it realistic like these movies do. And this one, with how much fantasy there is, plus that style they have of making it seem realistic, is just like, it's really, really unique, even amongst the other ones. Other Ghibli movies.
Yeah, this one is the most fantastical, right? I mean, Howl's Moving Castle was...
It's nonstop, right? Like I mean, almost that's all that it is like, it's like Alice in Wonderland, where there's no real... That's the two things that I might say that I don't love about this movie, at least compared to the other ones, is I don't really relate to the character. I mean, it's a 10-year-old girl.
You're not a 10-year-old girl.
Right. But I also don't see like a character... Her character developed that much.
Right.
I just see her kind of wandering through the world, which by itself is great, but in some ways it's a little unsatisfying. In some scenes, I feel a little bit disconnected. Whereas in like Totoro, I don't feel that way, even though that is also a 10-year-old girl.
No, but you really, it's a really good point. The emotional elements of something like Totoro seem a lot heavier. And
I think the only thing relatable was sort of the premise of like what she's dealing with. You know,
you can sympathize with her
someone,
going, what
I'm
is
lost.
this? Yeah.
Like these are all things that like externally we all understand.
Right.
I
feel fear.
Right.
I don't like being small.
But
that thing is creepy, and now I'm creeped out.
But I didn't know. I was thinking it was maybe I was so mesmerized by the visuals, but hearing you say this, Denny, maybe because I didn't think that her character had this dramatic development either. When you listen to Miyazaki, what he's trying to, that was his whole point of one of the big points he thought.
I mean, it's the same kind of thing in like Princess Mononoke. He has all these ideas of what he's trying to accomplish. And I've seen that movie a bunch too, and I don't really see it. You know, some people might, and that's fine, but like, I'm trying to see it, and it's not necessarily taking away from it. I actually think it might add to the replayability of these movies, because I come away a little bit confused for most of them. Totoro is an exception. I think Totoro, like, it has a storyline and there are character arcs, and it concludes at a pace that matches the rest of the movie. And my second complaint about this movie is that the last 10 minutes soar by. It seems like they ran out of money or something, and they just need to like wrap up all of the issues, which seems to resolve out of fucking nowhere. And then the entire town is cheering at her, and then she gets to go home. Like, what the fuck? And like the whole thing is that he flies her home. He was the river spirit, like the whole river spirit thing. Me and Naomi have seen this 12 times. We look at each other. We're like,
times.
River
Jesus
spirit? Like, I don't remember the fucking river spirit. Like, I just forget it every time I watch it.
And like, I think that is true, Danny, because it comes out of nowhere, and you're just supposed to imagine what that is, I think. And like, you're right. It's conceivably confusing, because you're just like, what is that about now? Do I need to know what the river spirit is?
Oh, they're already gone. They're past that part.
Right. Yeah. You don't need to know. But like, it could have said anything there. You could have said there's something God, or it didn't matter what it is.
The whole thing is like, the weird part about the ending of this one is like, you don't get explanation to anything, right? She's just like, they tell her what to do. She does it to survive. And at the end, they try to like wrap up some kind of story with some kind of like logical fairy tale explanation.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, just could be personal taste, but I don't like that necessarily. And regardless, I think it just goes way too
feels
fast.
Rushed,
like the plot, it feels really rushed.
Well, it certainly is the case that when I get to Book Corner, I have different quotes on this stuff. But Miyazaki was saying that he would talk when he was talking like designing for the film and stuff. He's always arguing with his producer, because his producer would always say, "Well, we'll have to delay it a year," and then he'd be like, "Nope, okay, we can't do that." So they're always rushing under deadlines, and it sounds like they always have to forcefully put a stop to the work, basically, because they could just go on forever.
Because you're just, right. I understand that. It happens.
Right. And so, and he just has so many ideas and whatever. I think too, with any of it, with this film in particular, it seems there was so much there that was built up that it's like, it could go on for a long time. And because it felt like almost we were just getting started and getting to know this world and understand it a bit, and then they got to wrap it up. And
even
so
before they
it sort of
started
feels
drawing
like-
things, he had an idea for the story, and they could like judge how long a movie was going to be. It was going to be over 3 hours initially, so they cut out a bunch of scenes and they removed a bunch of the more quote flashy action parts of the movie to save on budget and to save on time. So.
Wow, this could have been too bad. It could have been like a 3-parter or something. But apparently, again, he exhausts everybody around him and works them all to death, or they voluntarily do so, whatever. So there's only a certain amount of time that they can all do this before they collapse. Basically, it sounds like so. So they can't. I mean, it's not just it's budget, but it's also just like it seems like it's the amount of effort everybody's willing to put in, the kind of work that apparently gets put into these films and the timelines. He makes some jokes about how like if the labor department had come in there, he'd been shut down. So that again, just the sort of pace they set and the amount of work they put in is not very sustainable either. So then they have not to mention the budget or whatever other deadlines they have because of release schedules or whatever. So yeah, it's an interesting sort of thing. And the way, I don't know how he works, but it's just like he's come out of retirement and then it's just like, all right, now we're going to do this full on. And then he's like, I'm going to retire again. I hate this.
I don't know why he says that. He says that
he's
literally.
exhausted. I think I don't know, but he's exhausted after every one of these things. I'm sure he's like, I don't want to do that again. God,
he's been doing this since
brutal.
96, TC. Since Princess Mononoke came out, he said he was going to retire for that one. The first time I heard him say it was when he finished The Wind Rises, which was back in like 2013. He's like, oh, he came out of retirement, and then he was going to retire immediately after that one, which he did for a while because that was his most recent one before The Boy and the Heron. But hey, look at that. He's back. He's 82. He's still making fucking full-length, completely engrossing anime movies.
It's pretty crazy shit.
Yeah. There's I don't know where this quote from Guillermo del Toro. My mouth isn't working.
Your favorite director, Guillermo.
Yeah. Oh, Ghibli, I call him. Yeah. Him and I are buds. Don't worry about it. I can say his name wrong. That's how good of friends we are.
John, I was 30 feet behind him one day, John. Are you jealous of me?
I am so jealous of you.
Why didn't you say hi for him? I mean, geez.
Say hi. He knows me. Yeah.
I was too afraid.
I don't blame you. Hey, I can't even say his name.
Gilly. I love Pan's Labby.
So beautiful. He said about the camera and it's a ballet and Anyway, I forget what there's an interview reason where he's saying like this is like being able to be alive at the same time as Mozart and go and see his concerts with him conducting. He's just saying that it's like an extraordinary time to be alive and when there's a master like this and you get to go and watch their stuff. So it was just kind of, I mean,
who said that? Gilly did?
Yeah, Guillermo del Toro.
Oh.
So,
I kind of agree. I mean, I don't want to, I'll hold that.
Yeah, well,
I'll hold my thoughts for
next week.
Yeah. But I think that, I mean, I agree. This guy, I would say, and I don't know, TC, if you'd agree with this, but looking at these directors that have the most movies in the list, I mean, I fucked up. And let me correct a fuck up I have. I've been fucking up for the past 230 list movies by saying whenever I brought this up that there were three directors.
I mean, you can add it to the pile of fuck ups, Denny, so it doesn't really matter. I mean, it's okay.
Yeah. It's rare that I admit it. I just edited it out, but I'm going to admit to it here. So this might be the first time.
In fact, actually, it's a little uncomfortable that you do that. I'm sorry. Could you not do that? That's just not...
Not edit it out?
No. Well, no,
just not mention
fucked
it.
Up.
Yeah, right.
You admitting so freely that you fucked up is really that's no fun for starters.
Is it
anyway,
not?
Go on.
I'm just going to delete you. Now.
Okay, bye.
That's what I'm going to do. Get the finger on the button.
It's so much more fun when we get to argue
on the next
about
episode.
how you fucked up.
And a weird silence that keeps happening.
So we can talk about how you
we
fucked up.
answer to the silence, and it doesn't make any sense.
And then it's just shut up, John. And that's what we're going to edit in.
That's better. I prefer the combativeness. I don't know.
John, you're not going to like this correction either. I got to tell you.
Okay. Well, it's just saying. It's just like seeing your favorite athlete that can't do it anymore. You know.
Well, this was before I was practicing. I put this list together before we started recording because I just wanted some data. But this list is like taking all of the movies that every director did and see which director has the most movies in the list. I used to say and have been saying for the past 7 years at this point that there were 3 directors that were tied for number 1 with 7 movies in the list.
Oh, okay.
But there were 4.
Oh, no.
4 movies with or 4 directors with 7 movies.
See, you're still fucking up. Movie director.
Guess who it is? John's favorite director.
Michael
Bay.
Bay.
So the 3 that were on there and have been on there are Spielberg, Hitchcock, and Kubrick.
No, and so it's Batman himself.
It's Batman himself. I didn't count Inception.
No.
Now I'm like, where's Inception on this? Oh, I didn't count Inception.
So much better than any of the films we've watched so far is Inception.
God.
Not to mention
So I was
Batman.
going to say, that got me just thinking, just looking at these movies, so that those are the top 4 for movies that have directors that have 6. We have Scorsese, Kurosawa, and Miyazaki. 5 Tarantino, Sergio Leone, Charlie Chaplin, Billy Wilder. So just thinking about Miyazaki and how much I think, looking back on it, we've all liked.
Oh yeah,
I remember we put all of us 3 put Totoro on our list. I'm not sure there's been a movie where we've all 3 agreed on it.
Yeah.
Plus we've liked all of them.
Right.
And there are movies that I initially didn't think TC was going to like at all before we started doing this.
There's been a lot of those movies on this list, and I was like, I'm going to fucking hate it. I'm like, those were good.
But to add to that, he's not just
not
the director.
that many, TC. It hasn't been that many.
He's not just the director. He's like, he's the writer. He's the person who comes up with the concepts.
If you can call it writing.
Yeah.
Because what he does is different than everybody else.
We've talked about that before too, but yeah.
TC, do you remember what he does? Because I'm not sure we did talk about this. And next week there's a documentary on him in Studio Ghibli, which I was also going to watch.
I'm pretty sure we went into it around the way he does storyboarding and stuff, because it's written in those 2 books that I have, which are awesome.
Oh, okay.
But
he doesn't use words. He just draws.
Into it again.
He does storyboards without any story, and just does images.
That's pretty
crazy. And then they
crazy.
fill the story in afterwards after they have all the images.
I mean, that's a different brain.
Which is, I think, how his movies come off the way they do, because a lot of the scenes and a lot of the real grounding portions of it are beautifully painted still backgrounds with characters just walking through them.
Huh.
So it kind of makes sense for like the storyboards to originate from the background.
Right.
And then everything else kind of happens within the background.
Right.
Is this what is this in your and Naomi's opinion? Where do you rank this one? Because we've only got the one more to see as far as all of the standards from them, and that's the new one.
I think it depends. I mean, it depends what mood you're in. They're all kind of, if I were to put my critic hat on and say which movie was like the closest to being the movie that I would complain the least about, or the movie I could have the hardest time finding flaws in, would probably be My Neighbor Totoro. I think front to back, that movie is like paced really consistently and has a really good storyline and brings me close to tears, and like has a really nice story, and like all the stuff you want in a movie is there. This one is great if you want a hard fantasy. Princess Mononoke is great if you want a violent fantasy. Howl's Moving Castle is up there because it's like a fun, silly fantasy. Nausicaa and Castle in the Sky are like kind of hard sci-fi fantasy type things. Just, there's one for every mood. And even the ones that aren't on the list, they're pretty good too. Yep. So we watch those too. Like Kiki's Delivery Service is one if you guys haven't seen. But this one's up there. Yeah. This one's on the highest rotation. And that's the only way I could classify them is how many times I've seen it. And we'll continue to watch it. Probably wait a bit to show it to a kid. That's kind of
what's amazing is how rewatchable these films seem to be too. Is another piece. Like maybe that's kind of the point of some of they're not as explicit about what they're doing and what they're saying. Kind of like a really good song is like that. Like if you sit down and think about the lyrics, maybe it doesn't make sense, or maybe it doesn't mean what you thought it meant, or maybe the writer didn't even mean what they thought it was. Or they'll say, this song
floating to Ohio on a swarm of bees type shit.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know what that means.
Don't you shit on the National.
Nobody knows what that means, but it sounds good.
Poet.
Though.
That is one of my most listened to songs ever. I love that song. That song is beautiful. That whole album mostly. But yeah, those sorts of things are like painting pictures too. But they're a little abstract. They're not necessarily being too directive. Or telling you what, it's not like making some kind of direct statement about this, that, or the other. It's just sort of like using imagery and words and conveying a feeling. I don't know. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. I kind of like the idea of categorizing all of his films with like how it feels.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a good idea. We should put that on the website.
Put a feeling thing. Yeah.
And the thing is too, with like a lot of movies that are, they don't have explanations. Like I used to really like that a lot when I was younger because I felt like, oh, the director knows something I don't, like I'll eventually understand it. But now that I'm like old and I think I know as much as they do, I'm just like, they just made it confusing for the sake of being confusing. And that fucking annoys me. But these movies don't annoy me.
No. I don't know. There's a sweet spot there because there's a lot of vision and thought in what he's doing, a ton. Like he'll go on forever about any of these movies, about what he was trying to do and what he thinks of it. And he'll contradict himself. And then he'll talk about how he's contradicting himself and whatever. So there's a ton of thought. It's not just an art house thing. It's a bad art house where they're like, oh, we're being weird now. Oh, this is poetic. Oh, this is, here's a penis. Not like that.
Get out of here, Bergman.
That's right. Well done. See,
is it bad? I can pull that image up into my brain in half a second.
Yeah, and then yell at Bergman. Get out of here, Bergman.
That's a big dick. Not gonna lie.
Right? Didn't expect that dick. That's for sure.
Yeah, thanks, man. Oh yeah, you're an artist now. Good for
I shouldn't have watched this on an airplane. I love the image of TC on his laptop watching freaking Persona.
Yeah.
The first 5 minutes.
Just being like, hey, my man.
Right.
Not even grossed out, like impressed.
Right. Yeah, there's a penis here. Huh?
Respectful. Respect.
Look over here. Yeah. Don't worry, it's art. It's art. Your daughter's not a mind. It's art.
I know. It's a big dick. It's weird, but hey, he's the director. I don't know.
He's European. Come on.
He's highly respected.
Yeah.
Hey, no, I don't think he's been charged with
anything.
No.
It's okay. He got paid to do that. It's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
Right. But yeah, good call.
Anyway, back to the children's movie. What are we talking about?
I don't know. You're running out of things to say.
I'm running out of things to say.
Okay.
I got some trivia.
Okay.
Speaking of physical media, this Blu-ray doesn't have any special features except for you can kind of turn on a feature to watch the storyboards as the movie goes on, which is kind of cool. You get to see like the production shots of what ended up happening.
Like you get to see his storyboards that he made before he did the. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's like a screen thing. So it really shows a lot of them, a lot of concept drawings, or not even concept drawings, but like the storyboards.
Right. Like this is his script. More or less. But yeah.
So that's cool, but not exactly like, I got nothing to share from that except for if you have it, you can watch it. It's cool.
It's not material for the podcast Blu-ray. Thanks.
That's right. You would think that after Princess Mononoke and all of his other movies that Miyazaki would have free reign to do whatever he wanted to do at Studio Ghibli. But after Princess Mononoke, he had 2 proposed movies that got rejected by the studio. This was the 3rd proposal he had.
Wow.
That was finally accepted.
You would think that's not a thing when you're that.
It was massively
you would think
successful,
so.
Right?
Yeah, it was.
Right?
Hugely successful. So you'd think he'd have some type of free reign.
Maybe they just were still too exhausted. So it took him. It wasn't until he got to
more
the third one. Right.
Like it's a really good idea, but I'm fucking tired.
It's like so beat, guys.
Jimmy can't move his hand still. He screams every time he sees a pencil. So,
that sounds like it could have happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see it. I don't know, but that is really weird. I don't know why if they. Yeah, I can't see anything he makes is going to be a blockbuster. It's
easy to say that looking back.
Yeah, maybe
right?
so. Maybe part of it is the studio. Maybe he's.
This is also so we only really pay attention to, this movie made a shit ton in Japan.
Yeah.
But right after Princess Mononoke, that's when Disney got involved. Or during Princess Mononoke, after it was like a huge success. We talked about this during that episode where Disney and the Weinstein Company got involved in trying to bring it to the United States. Weinstein wanted to chop it up to make it palatable, and they sent him from Japan a samurai sword saying "no cut," so they didn't cut it. But they had this deal where they had some distribution money coming in from Princess Mononoke. They had all the distribution rights for VHS tapes of the other movies, so they released My Neighbor Totoro '97 on VHS in the States, and that was doing really well too. And then for Spirited Away, they had they gave them 10% of the budget for first rights of refusal for distribution in the United States. And that deal has been going on until 2011, I think, when G Kids bought them out. I don't know where you guys watched this, but did you see the G Kids logo at the beginning? Do you remember?
I don't think so. I saw G Kids. What a terrible name.
Did you see Disney or G Kids?
Bad.
I don't know.
I don't
Well,
remember.
maybe it's a Japanese.
It's a
company,
terrible
so-
logo. It just says it's like a balloon font and it's G Kids one word and like a green circle around it and that's
yeah,
it.
like Nickelodeon
wow.
or something.
Yeah.
Like cheap Nickelodeon.
But they own the Ghiblis, so hey, they probably got
wow.
a ton of money.
I guess so. Bunch of venture capitalists or whatever.
Yeah.
Private equity.
John Lasseter at Pixar was
Huggy Man. We like
Huggy
the
Man.
hugger.
The hugger.
I'm a
So-
hugger and a knee grabber.
Yeah, don't
He's
you worry about it.
Yeah, had his thanks a lot for all that. Like him and Weinstein in the industry in the late 90s, really making waves,
Thanks,
putting out some
guys.
really
Yeah.
good friggin' material.
Yeah.
Lasseter was a creep, but he's not in the same as Weinstein, obviously.
Right.
But
that
he
we know of.
he loved Ghibli movies and he basically brought them to the Disney executives saying, look at these movies, we need to work with, these people, we need to
Yeah, like,
distribute
this is
these and
amazing.
get some of this freaking
Yeah,
money.
right.
you know?
Are you seeing
Yeah.
this? Right.
Yeah. So they appointed him the executive producer for all the English adaptations at the time. John, I wanted to look this up before the podcast. John Rastenberger has a voice, and John, you would have recognized it if you watched the dub. But John Rastenberger is that dude that's in all of the Pixar movies.
Right. Cliff Clavin. He's also, isn't he Cliff Clavin from
Yeah.
Cheers, right?
Yeah.
he
John
really?
Rass.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Are you sure?
And for some reason, it's a Pixar thing. He's in every single one of their movies. In some way or
Wow.
other.
He was the Abominable Snowman in Monsters Incorporated.
I mean, he's got a hell of a voice.
It's always the same kind of, he's still Cliff, mostly.
Well,
I
that's
think,
right.
Which
Yeah.
is fine. I mean, but yeah, he's still Cliff. Even if he's an abominable snowman, it's still like he's sitting there having a beer with you, making up some story.
I'm seeing Ani Yaku.
Yeah, the
Who
assistant.
is-
He is the assistant manager.
Oh, he's the guy who dances for the he has the bells and he dances for the no face guy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Small part, did not recognize him.
Mm-mm.
This movie was #1 in Japan for 11 weeks. It was in the theaters for 22 weeks total. It made $224 million in Japan before any worldwide release. It was the first movie ever to gross over $200 million worldwide, excluding the US, which is nuts. Movie
Yeah.
was huge. This movie
It
made Titanic made a bunch of money in 97. This movie broke those records. So this movie was watched more by Japanese people than they, than the Titanic, I guess. Does that sentence make sense? Probably
Yes.
not. But you know
Not
what I'm
really.
saying? No.
No.
Bigger than the Titanic.
Bigger than the
Made
Titanic
more money
in
than the
Japan.
Titanic.
Yeah.
in
So if you
Japan.
imagine if you were alive when Titanic was coming out, literally everybody saw it. And this movie was
Yep.
bigger than that to Japanese people.
Hmm.
It only made $10 million in the US, but still that was better than Princess Mononoke, what that did. But the DVD sales were very good. And the VHS tape sales were really good too, because after winning the Best Animated Feature Academy Award, it kind of, got really popular. And the internet was big back then. So like this is a highly torrented movie as well, shared around the internet. 2 more pieces of trivia. I watched a clip of this movie winning Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards. Steve Martin introduced Cameron Diaz. Cameron Diaz read the cards, and nobody from the movie was there.
Oh,
So
wow.
Cameron Diaz said, the Academy accepts it. Thank you.
Oh,
And then
wow.
walks off the stage.
Ah.
I was like, why did I just watch that? It's fucking stupid.
That was a waste of your time.
And a big thing that Miyazaki uses as something he keeps in his movies is a thing called ma. And I don't know what the direct translation is, but he describes it as the space between clapping. And the pacing of the movie can, be attributed to that, where there's like, most movies will just have like story development scenes or action scenes like one after the other. And this movie always has a scene in between where someone's like traversing some land or like sitting and contemplating. And it just breaks up the movie from like the action-y scenes or the progression scenes with like time for you to like look at
Ingest.
what's going on and just like
Yeah.
think about things and, have your own thoughts sort
And
of.
enjoy the scenery, even if it
Right.
doesn't really mean much at the moment, Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
The space between clapping.
Oh, interesting.
All right.
That's all I got.
The other movies it was up against that year for animated feature
We're
we
not very
had-
good.
No, we had he had Ice
Well,
Age.
I mean, let's not marginalize
He had
it too
Lilo and
much, yeah.
Stitch.
There
I
was
mean,
one called
they're fine.
Spirits, and they must have been like, they're like,
Stallion
and the
of
winner
the
is
Cimarron.
Spirit.
Yeah.
Tit away.
Oh, that's right. I gotcha.
Sucks to
Right.
be
But
you.
I like Treasure Planet. That was a good one.
I liked it too, but it's,
no,
weak
no,
year.
it's not-
Come on.
It was. Well, like, that was when Best Picture was Chicago,
Oh, bad year overall.
right?
Oof.
But that was up against The Hours, The Lord of the Rings, and The Pianist. And
Which Lord of the
Polanski,
Rings?
the second one.
Oh, Two Towers?
Interesting, yeah.
Hmm.
Adrian Brody won for Best Actor as The Pianist. Chris Cooper from an Adaptation. That's a good film.
Oh, that's a good one.
We want to
Add that to the list of things that should be on the.
We should see that one. Yeah, Adaptation was pretty good.
Add that one to the list.
Yeah, do that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Actually, I do remember that one.
Yeah, that one was a crazy movie when I went and saw that. Yeah. Anyway, just a little bit of Chicago. These musicals that do so well, they just seem to, I don't know, they seem so like disposable.
Mm-hmm.
Especially like this is a musical based on a Broadway play. I mean,
some people like that though, John.
I know.
Some people only like that, and that's okay.
That works okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That's okay. I just don't want to know those people. All right, what are we going to watch
They're
next
just not
week?
my friends in particular.
Well, I don't
you got
have
more,
like,
John?
No, well, I do have a little bit of stuff from the book, but it's okay.
Absolutely. I'm just sorry for cutting you off. I just used to you not bringing anything to the table anymore.
I know. Isn't that fucked up?
We used to have a pretty consistent Johnny's Book Corner. Where it went, I have no fucking idea.
Well,
it just went away.
I
know where it went. I'll tell you where it went. I just, I'm trying to get back into it.
I'll tell you where it went. Yeah,
I'll tell you where it went. It's one of your fucking ass, you son of a bitch.
There are two books. There are two books that I'm surprised you still haven't got these because they're really good. If you like, I mean, you got to read. You probably don't read any. You just watch. But there's two books. One is called Turning Point, which is, and again, the earlier one, I can't remember what it's called. The second one is called Turning Point, and basically it's covering the years of 97 to 2008. It's by Miyazaki. Basically, it collects essays and interviews about each of his films. So there's these two books in the series. Who knows? Maybe there's going to be a third one at this point. But it's really good. It's really just a lot of interviews, a lot of his essays around the film. And so you'll
How
get,
late does it go? Like, what's the last movie in the second book?
2018. So the last movie it'll go to
The Wind Rises, probably.
Is Ponyo. 2008. So Princess Mononoke was 97, Spirited Away 2001, Howl's Moving Castle 2004, and Ponyo 2008. There might be a third book in the series. I don't know. It's cute. It's where it's. If I don't remember, I remember it being like almost like a little kids movie.
Yeah, it is.
So one of the things that they have in the book is this is the proposal for Spirited Away that they published. So and there's a long it's a whole chapter basically that just tells you what he's going after. And again, in typical fashion of him, he's very much wanting to make a point. Like with any of these films, he's really trying to make a point, and it's usually a difficult point to make that makes a bunch of statements that seem maybe over a generalization about the way things are, but still interesting, and then sometimes contradictory. So that's just typical. Like it seems to be his style, which again, I could get annoyed at, but he works so hard. He makes these things,
and he's good,
right? So it's okay.
He doesn't talk like what he's doing. He has he doesn't say it works, right? He's like, he comes out and says like, I don't know if this makes any sense, but this is what I was trying to do, and here you go.
So he's like, in Spirited Away, no one weighs weapons about or has showdowns using superpowers. It's still an adventure story, but it's supposed to be a story of a young girl who's thrown in another world where good people are bad and bad people are all mixed up and coexisting. And she undergoes training. She learns about friendship. And that he wanted her to go through this journey of self-sacrifice, relying on her own smarts. That was kind of his vision, that she gets thrown into this world and she has to survive. That's he's again, this is a pretty common theme for him, but he's like, today's children feel shielded, protected, and distanced from reality, to the point where they only have a vague sense of what it means to be alive. And I think his idea was, you put this girl in this situation where she's like kind of bratty. She's like not following her parents. She's dragging her feet. She's sticking her tongue out at her new school. She's just, a sort of like not feeling much and not caring about anything around her. You don't get a lot of that, but this is what he was like thinking about in terms of the treatment, And so he wanted to be like this puts her in a situation that forces her to become a sort of a hero that she, but not with any like superpowers or anything. She just has to survive. And she has to figure out how to survive. Like she's got to take a job. She's told she's got to work. She's got to do these things, so she goes and does all these things and she wins. She survives the world. And then the other thing one of his other themes that he likes here is talks about how he thinks words are really powerful. And in this particular world, he wants words to be even more powerful. So, when she says, I'll work here, her words are so powerful that even a witch like Yubaba can't ignore them. And he again thinks that's, people take words for granted now. There's just so much stuff, so much content that people don't take words seriously anymore, even though they can be and should be taken very seriously at times. He kind of that was kind of another vision for this world, was that words could have a great deal of power. And he again, like one of his quotes here is like, I want this film to convey it's these words that represent our will. Words are us, and words are our power. Again, he's just, this is his treatment of it. But he really hopes, he says this over and over again in lots of other interviews too. Like he wants this to be a film that 10-year-old girls will see it and find what they're looking for. And I'm sure I'll wait till Sam's 10 and we will have the test the next year.
We got to check back in whenever you do that. We got to, because I was hoping you were going to come in and see how it holds up to today's youths.
Yeah. Well, I want to wait till she's 10.
The youths.
I think she'll be more those youths, but I'm going to make her watch it and I'm going to say, is this what you're looking for?
Yeah. Did you find what you were looking for?
Yes. Anyway, so the film also, the book also, then another part of Spirited Away is there's the notes for Spirited Away Image album, and in the notes of the film are the poetry that he wrote to go along with the score. So before the score was written, he had these poems written that he gave to the composer, and to kind of convey what he wanted to convey with the score as well. And
so Miyazaki can write poetry too.
They're beautiful. They actually are really good. So I'm not going to read his poetry, but it's pretty good stuff.
Crazy talented.
Yeah. So another thing. So this is a press conference he gives about Spirited Away in the Imperial Hotel Tokyo, July 10th, 2001. He describes the girl. They're like saying this protagonist is interesting. At first, she seems a very ordinary young girl, and he's like, "Yeah, this girl's a brat, frankly." And most of the real young girls I know at that age might be described in a similar way. So he wanted that character to be. She doesn't come across that bad at all at the beginning, but he wanted to do that. Apparently, he with No Face, people were asking him like, "Where did you get No Face, and what is No Face about?" And he was just talking about how they kind of came up together. It turned out that they were talking about all the stuff they needed to cut and who they wanted to have be the focus, or to sort of like be in the film a bit more. And this character No Face just happened to be on a bridge of a scene that they'd done. And they were all in a room working, and he's like, let's use that guy. and so it wasn't really like, I guess the producer of the film was running around saying that No Face is Miyazaki's alter ego. And there's a number of times in these interviews where he says that's not the case. I mean, maybe I relate to him or whatever, but there wasn't like this profound, like, I am No Face and we're putting No Face in there. It was a little bit more circumstantial how that all came about.
It was just because they saw an image when they were discussing this, and that No Face, what happened to be on the wall. Yeah. That's what you were saying?
Yeah. What was that? No, sorry. Say that again. I missed
it.
I was looking at the next part.
Okay. I was just asking. So to clarify, I think TC just said yes, but you were saying that the only reason No Face was in it because they were trying to cut characters out and No Face was on the wall, and they were just like, let's just use that guy.
Well, he was like already in a scene that they liked, and so they were also like deciding like, let's see, so
if we can cut that guy or not, it's like, no, keeping No Face.
So they were like, this is where he says like, I'll go into this a little more detail if you want, because it contains some of this other stuff. So the question is, well, where did you get the idea for a character as unique as No Face?
Into the mic, John.
Miyazaki says,
hey, John, into the mic.
I'm sorry. So Miyazaki said, well, I think it was around the end of April last year. I was having a really hard time creating the storyboards for the film. We started doing key animation in February, and maybe it was around May. But when we got to the studio that was normally our day off, I found that the producer, the animation director, and the art director had also come into work. Probably not a surprise, actually, given the way they all worked their tails off. But he thought it was a good opportunity. So the four of them got together and he started explaining the story to see how far we could go with it. And after hearing me out, the producer said, this will be a 3-hour film. And I also thought it would run for 3 hours at that point, even 3.5 hours. But then the producer said, in complete seriousness, shall we postpone the release for a year? And of course, he says, this is the same trick he always uses with me. And then, of course, I told him I didn't want to delay the release. So this is a pretty common play for them.
Situation with them. Yeah, right.
It's like talking about
another
all the
year of
things he wants to
torture.
put in
No,
the
thank
film.
you.
Right. So then we'd start talking about how we'd have to totally change the story somehow, but we'd already drawn some of it. So we couldn't change that, and we'd already finished the key animation. And as it happened in the scene where they crossed the bridge leading to the bathhouse, there was a weird-looking masked man who sort of floats across. So when I saw this, I said, let's use him. And that was the way No Face came to be.
So it sounds like they didn't even have scenes of the minute. He was just in the background.
Right.
That's what it sounds like.
Yep. Yeah, he was just kind of there on the bridge and as part of one of the other weird cast of characters that were everywhere.
Wow.
But he's
What a quirky
he's
dig.
iconic, right? I mean,
Yeah.
So here's another question that is sort of fun. I don't know if his answer is fun, but it's sort of interesting. So here's a question for you. And again, this is that press interview in Tokyo. First, in the commentary, you write something to the effect that children can get along fine without manga or TV or animation, but here you are yourself making animation like this.
Haha, good question.
What do you think about this contradiction? Because he says this is a criticism for him a lot too.
Yeah.
He talks about the saturation. There's too much media. There's too much. Our
Kids watch too many movies. Let me go make some more movies for the
go make some
children.
movies that they can watch.
Exactly. Yeah. So and
Goddamn
Miyazaki,
youths.
It's good money though. It's real
Yeah,
good
but you
money.
should
I
pay
tell
for
you.
it though.
Yeah.
And Miyazaki says, well, frankly, I'm just a bundle of contradictions and dilemmas in my work. He said, to my mind, it would be great if kids could see just a couple of good animated films while they're still little. But I think children would be healthier if they had enough space in their lives to be more fulfilled as they could see something mysterious and pretty and wonder what it was.
How about how we weren't even at social media yet?
Yeah. Right.
But
We're in trouble.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Oh,
so
man.
he struggles with that too. Like he sees people as oversaturated with consuming things and not really living real lives. And yet he produces stuff for people to consume. Arguably, he's making good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's still, and he believes in the power of imagery and fantasy. And he goes on to talk about how he believes fantasy is really powerful and it lets people imagine themselves conquering things that they wouldn't normally conquer or seeing other people do amazing things. And maybe leads them to think they can do amazing things, or at least they see other people imagining things by creating that work, and then they think they can, and all of that's good. But still, it is a contradiction because he wars against it too, against the enormity of it and how much people rely on media and things like that. So yeah, it's sort of interesting. So
It's tough. Sounds like a struggle to live inside his head.
Yeah. So what is I was just going to talk about what he says. Again, this book is, both of the books are just full of this stuff. If you're really interested in this guy and would like to just hear a lot of what he's writing and thinking, these two books do it a lot, give you a lot of that.
Send it to me again. I've been holding off and buying these for a while.
Yeah.
But now that we're done with him,
So the second
probably.
book is called Turning Point. They're both by him because it's basically a collection of his words and his writings or his interviews. So Turning Point is the second one. So Starting Point is the very first book.
Starting Point. That makes sense.
Starting Point is 1979 to 1996. And then Turning Point is years 1997 to 2008. I don't know what I just have the Kindle edition, so I don't know what the hardbacks are like. Maybe there's some arts.
They
and
look cool.
illustrations and stuff. So if that would be even more of a bonus. It's funny if he just says he's being asked about why they follow up on earlier. You mentioned that you didn't want to postpone the release of the film, but what's the real reason you wanted to bring out Spirited Away this year, 4 years after Princess Mononoke? And he says it's because we have a budget. This is not the whole happy-go-lucky kind of business where we can spend as much money as we want. And besides, film production gets exhausting if it takes too long. We need to insert a period, bring things to a stop. And of course, we keep saying things like, if only we had about 2 more months, we'd end it at such and such a point. But toward the end, we start saying things like, only 1 more month. And of course, because it was so hot this summer, I did suggest this crazy idea to our producer that we should delay the opening until fall. And this is just the way it turned out. And So he said, I often say it, if you spend 3 years making a 2-hour film, those 3 years are represented by only 2 hours. And it's true. So then what happens is some people will say, well, what, you're 30 years old? And of course, it doesn't make sense for me to be the only one who's aging, but I don't like to think of the young staff members around me all suddenly aging. And of course, telling them not to age doesn't work either. He said, so I tell our staff that it's not an issue of just spending time on the project. It's more important whenever possible to do other things while doing your work, to just disappear secretly so that you can have your own time. Do not go around saying how you've still got paid vacation left. But here we are.
What?
And they're still sitting at their desks. It's a big problem. He has the struggle too. I mean, they work like crazy, and he sees it, and it not just taking a toll on him, but the people he's working with. He's still got this vision. He still wants to make this thing. So it's just sort of, it's just funny.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for spending your life on all these movies there, Miyazaki. Seems more difficult than making a normal movie. That's all I got to say.
Well,
Yeah, I'd say so. Because even that's hard enough.
It's I'm sure that the normal movies are hard, but this is like, I don't know.
You got to make everything up out of nothing, and you got to bend over a table for years.
Another film, like, well, somebody else wrote the script, somebody's the director, somebody's the cinematographer. All these people are working hard, but each have their own vision. That's its own problem, is working together as a team and making that work well, I guess. But it's a different kind of thing in terms of what he's doing, is like such a an individual driven thing, it seems. I'm sure he's got maybe there's lots of people behind the scenes that have him in check in good ways. Maybe those 2 proposals he had were terrible. And so there's some other gatekeepers there that are helping him, like, because he is a creative genius, and they're going to make sure that he doesn't do a Lucas. I don't know. Who knows?
Stay tuned. I'll find out all about the inner workings of Studio Ghibli next week.
All right. Sounds good.
And you guys should watch that too if you got time. I've seen it before. It's pretty good.
Okay.
Nice.
It's called...
I'm sure you talked about it at our last one.
Did I? I don't think I watched it. I think I was holding off.
I know you watched some, or maybe you mentioned that documentary. You watched some documentary about it, but yeah, we should. We should have a Ghibli send-off here. So
yeah, it's called The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, and it's on HBO. So if you want to watch it,
long title.
Yeah. So sweet. All right, is that it?
That's it.
Done?
I'm done now.
All right. Wave good. Well, we're not going to quite wave goodbye to Ghibli yet. We'll do that next week.
Yep.
But yeah, top 250.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All right. That's all I got. Next week, the new movie. Go see this. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
See it in theaters.
What's it called again?
The Boy and the Heron.
The Boy and the Heron. Okay.
And just unless you're, totally adamant about subtitles, watch it with the dubs just so you can enjoy all of the hand-drawn imagery on a giant screen.
Okay.
You can really stare at it.
Okay.
That sounds good. I'm looking forward to it.
Can't wait to hear what you guys think.
Oh, yeah.
Some enthusiasm. That's all right. Timmy's not a Ghibli fan.
No. Nope.
Stop 'em.